The group of Christchurch redzone homeowners has won a 6-year battle with the government. The quake outcasts, who were uninsured at the time of the quakes, took their case to the Supreme Court to challenge the government's offer of 50% of their property's rateable value. They argued that clearing the red zone destroyed any value left in their homes, and it was unfair for them not to be included in the red zone offer. Now, the court ruled in their favour in 2015. And the government raised its offer to 100%, but of the land value only, no improvements. The group, led by Christchurch lawyer John Campbell, continued to fight, and today the Minister for Greater Christchurch Regeneration, Nicky Wagner, announced the outcasts would receive 80% of the pre-earthquake value of their homes, including improvements. This on top of a payment for the land they'd already received. Ian Gibson is one of the group of 16. His wife's aunt, Jean Burgess, had a house in Bexley that was damaged in the quakes, but she had dementia and had forgotten to renew her insurance.
A relief, I think, is my biggest reaction. It's just nice for it to be over it. It's been over 6 years now, and it's a relief to be able to go, well, that's over, it's finished, it's done.
Over 6 years.
Mm.
And what's the sum of money we're talking about?
Well, what they've offered us is they've offered us 80% of the valuation, the improved valuation for the house, plus interest. So we get what we asked for, but at the moment what we don't know is what all the legal costs are going to be. So we'll probably end up with something close to what we asked for.
And this has dragged on and on through court case after court case, which in fact the Crown kept losing, right?
That's correct, yes. So this is the fifth court case we've been through now.
And did you feel at some stage that the defence was almost vexatious?
Well, you certainly got that from early on, that they were trying to drag this out and were trying to fob us off or hope we would go away. And that certainly came through after the Supreme Court ruling, that they just seemed to want to let it drag on and hope we would just give up.
If I recall correctly, from the very first judgment, and like all our listeners and like everyone involved, my brain is trying to grind back the best part of 6 years. But from the very beginning, the court was pretty unequivocal about Jean's right in these circumstances to have some kind of assistance, protection from the government, right?
That's correct. The first case, the first court case, the High Court here in Christchurch ruled in favour that basically that it was not about insurance. It was about the government taking the land.
This was the red zone land, right?
That's correct. She was in the red zone, and effectively we couldn't do anything with the property. We couldn't sell it. We couldn't repair it. We couldn't rent it. And when they made the offer, which was for paying for half of, originally the original offer was for half of the land only and nothing for the improvements on the property, and that was when the action started, when they made their first offer, because it was patently wrong, and that's where we started, and that's where it's got to now.
Yeah. And so there is no precedent here unless there is another red zone situation. So if Jean had forgotten to insure a home and it had burnt down, there would be no claim against the Crown whatsoever. What makes this unique, and why the claimants, the appellants, kept getting victory after victory in the court, was that the Crown had determined that this land could not be used for any other purpose and that people had to leave it and they could not sell it. It was a red zone.
That's correct. That's correct. So we had no choice. We don't really have, there were no options for it. We were basically stuck.
Forgive a question which I hope is not going to be upsetting. Is Jean had dementia? Is she still with us? No. Jean died a couple of years ago now. Fortunately for her, she was past understanding what was going on with her house, which she would have been really upset if she'd known what was happening to it. But no, her dementia, she went downhill after the earthquake, and she died a couple of years ago now. Quake outcast Ian Gibson, Jane, not her real name, who couldn't afford insurance, says she suffered from depression over the past 7 years, hoping this day would come.
A lot better, a lot better. No, just living in limbo for 7 years has taken a lot of toll. And it's just, you know, we were frightened to spend $1 because we did not know where we were going to be.
Why didn't you have insurance when the earthquakes hit?
Because of the size of my house and the cost of the insurance for such a big home, and my husband had left me.
And so, basically, forgive me for being really blunt about this, but you were elderly and poor, and you couldn't afford, you just didn't have the cash to pay your insurer, right?
No.
And when the land was red zoned and you had to leave, not only had you lost your property, you'd lost anything you could have sold. You didn't even have the land value. You were getting nothing, right?
Nothing. We were just, we were forced out on the street. It was just the way it was all handled. I mean, you know, it was just so hard to know which way to move. And that because with Jerry Brownlee saying that we had to get out because he red zoned us, no, the house wasn't livable, but it was better than nothing.
And where have you been living?
Well, we scratched by, and it was only through the chap I met through the earthquake that we put together what we could put together, because you know how much rent went up at the time. We scratched enough to be able to put down for another home.
And you kept winning in court, right? So every time, from that very first victory in the High Court, you must have thought, yes, this is going to be resolved. I'm going to get my settlement. I'm going to get my money. I'm going to be able to get on with my life.
I could not deal with it. If it wasn't for the chap I had met, he has been my rock. I didn't want to know nothing about it. I didn't want to handle it. If I hadn't have met him, there's no, I would have just ended up in a place like Hillmorton.
How did you find out that it had been settled? Who told you?
Our lovely Greg Cameron.
What was your response when he told you?
Oh, I just went, yippee. You know, because every time we would hear after a court thing, we just thought, oh, well, is this it? What's, you know, where are we now? But it just went on and on and on. And I mean, it was just so hard to face each day.
What are you going to do with the money, Jane?
I don't know. I feel like I've won the lotto. Because we'll finish paying off our mortgage. That'll be our first thing. And then I think we're entitled to a holiday.
Where do you think you might go? Have you thought about that?
Somewhere nice and warm.
Well, I hope you enjoy it. I hope you have a wonderful time there.
Thank you very much, Mr. Campbell.